Welcome to another edition of Thought Leaders Live, where we talk with thought leaders in business, life, and all points in between. Today, joined by Eagan Heath of Silver Path Marketing. Eagan is we both live here in Madison, is a Madison legend in terms of digital marketing, and is actually known in many other corners of the country and perhaps the globe. Really one of the brightest minds I've ever met in the marketing field and digital especially. So Eagan, thanks so much for coming on today onto the show. We're going to talk about how to track marketing leads from beginning to end. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much, and thanks for your generous words. It's great to be working alongside you, and I know that we've been learning and growing together over many years. You kind of as fellow digital marketers here in Madison, so it's great to be on here. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So what a great topic for today. The topic that I think has plagued marketers since the dawn of marketing kind, just attribution. The old saying, 50% of my marketing or advertising is working. I just don't know which 50% it is. In many ways applies in a lot of respects to what we're doing today, but without a doubt, with digital marketing, attribution has gotten so much better. So today, Egan's going to talk to us a little bit about how to build a marketing system that tracks every lead from the first click to the final sale. So, Egan, before we jump into all that, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, your personal journey, and where you're at with Silver Path Marketing?
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, this is year number 10 doing digital marketing consulting for me. I really got started with SEO, search engine optimization. Pretty soon I was into PPC, pay per click Google ads and things like that. And before you knew it, I had an agency and we were doing, paid social media ads, email marketing, building websites, all the things. And so right now, as it stands, I'm a one man shop, but I do have AI helping me, and boy, has it been a has it been a big help. So you can have me back on to talk about that another time. But
Yeah.
basically, I've got clients where they're selling business to business. I've got local service business clients. Every now and then, I get an e-commerce or nonprofit client, and so everybody has different goals. But in general, it's we're here to do marketing to increase the sales, to increase our business. And then the question is always, is it working? What's working? How do we know? And so I've been in the trenches, much like you, for a decade here. And I finally am starting to have some answers. I don't have all the answers or the final answers, but I have answers I'm happy with, happy enough that I wish I could get in a time machine and go back. I'll say that.
Yeah, well, that's progress, right? I mean, I think that what I've always admired about you, Egan, is it's always right from the get-go, you're focused on what are the results, how do we know if it's working? And was it Peter Drucker said, if it's not worth measuring, it's not worth doing. I'm
And
kind of,
I actually said, what gets measured gets managed.
that's it. Thank you. I was going to say I'm kind of butchering the paraphrase on that, but
Mm-hmm.
thank you again on that. So why don't we just jump right into this, and maybe let's just talk about the problem with marketing attribution and lead attribution from your perspective.
Yeah, and I have to thank the clients I've had, for the last 10 years of all this came from difficult questions from them that in some cases took me years to finally get a decent answer on. So I think maybe you could agree with that too.
Yeah.
We learn a lot from our clients, and whatever business you're in, whatever industry you're in, it really pays to listen. Your marketing gets better, and hopefully your processes, your systems, and your tools get better too when you listen, because that's what they're looking for. That's what they want answers to. And so I'll rewind a bit if I may. My previous agency was called Get Found Madison. I was really sort of known for search engine optimization, local SEO, local Google ads, things like that. I had a client that people might recognize from around town, and they would do moving. They were a mover, but then they could also do like industrial moving, like move very large things, basically with cranes and things like that, basically. And we're going over a Google Ads report, and I was proud because, like we were talking before, I figured out Google Tag Manager, and so I showed them the impressions, I showed them the clicks, I even showed them the leads. Here's how many form submissions you had, and here was your cost per lead. And if you're doing paid advertising online, you need to be looking at that. If your agency's doing that, if you have a consultant, you have someone in-house, those are the things you should be looking at. But then they pushed me further. They said, well, which leads were those? And as you know, Craig, if you go in Google Analytics or GA4, if you go in Google Ads, you see a lot of numbers. You don't see a lot of names. And in fact, it's against the rules. It's against the terms of service in Google Analytics 4 or Google Analytics to pass in anybody's you're not supposed to pass an email, name, anything like that. It's called PII, personally identifiable information. Now that can live in your CRM, that can live in your lead tracker, that can live somewhere else. But everything you see in the ad platform or most website analytics tools will be anonymized, and that's by design. Okay, but that's fine. That's Google's take. That's where they're at. But the client is asking you, where did this lead come from? Okay, you got us 8 leads at this cost per lead or whatever it was for movers in Madison. Which ones actually signed with us and paid us money? And so in order to do that, you need to connect up your CRM. You need to be using hopefully a modern CRM that captures that. And we know this specific lead who needed a mover in Madison, Wisconsin, they filled out the form and later they actually bought from us. They became a customer, a client. And so it sounds very simple, sounds easy. If you're not in sales and marketing, you think that should be done yesterday, and you're probably right. And if you're in sales and marketing, you know that the answer is not as good as it should be, and maybe that's not set up the way you'd hope. And there's always complexities around this that I think as you referenced at the front, what part of my marketing's working? I don't know which 50%, right? It's the classic phrase about it. This is a challenge. There's always edge cases. There's always complexity. And there's a great saying also about the map is not the territory. Of any tool you have, it's going to be a little different. So clients will ask you, how come Google Analytics numbers don't match with Google Search Console, with Google Ads, with HubSpot? And the answer is they're all measuring a different thing. And the client pushed me just this year and said, well, which one is right? And it's like, if I give you a social studies map and one of them shows you, here's where the cheese is made, here's where the corn is grown, here's where this is that, or like here's a road map, or here's a map of the rivers. You don't say which one is right. It's like it depends which map you need, right? And so there are different ways of looking at it. It was the first click that brought something to the site, the last click, et cetera, et cetera. But those are the problems. I think that was your question of what's the issue, what's hard about this, and well, we have a lot of different tools, some of which are not even allowed to have this data in. And then we got to hook it all up and connect it end to end from they saw an impression, let's say on Google, all the way to they bought something from our B2B service company 6, 12, 18 months later. So along that journey, I think most people lose the connection.
Yeah, I think that is the problem with the kind of the multi-source attribution is it the last touch? Is it the first touch? Were there 5 points in between that mattered? Is it the duration? And it could be, like you said, it could be multiple things. Are you coming to any certain point where you kind of got a feel for like, okay, yeah, if I can get this 75% of the time, I feel confident doing this sort of framework or this kind of approach?
Yeah, and as a marketer, I want full credit, whichever one. If they saw an ad, that ad gets credit, man. And if the client says, hey, that person was already in our database, I say, all right, but we get 50% credit.
Yeah,
I'm tongue in cheek there, but it's like it takes a village to make a sale. So
yeah.
I think we're seeing the platforms like Google Ads move to basically distributed distribution, not just, it used to be we want first touch or we want last touch. And as you look now, you'll see the little lines that go like this, and that means, okay, we'll kind of spread it out, and you'll see numbers in your conversion columns in your ad platforms that say 5.4, and you're like, what's a 0.4 of a conversion? And I think that's the answer of it's distributing them, it's getting it partial credit depending on where you fell in line there.
Okay. Well, why don't we get into some real specifics here? And one of the first bullet points on the show description is how to build paid ad campaigns that generate qualified leads. You want to dive into that one a little bit? That's a pretty broad topic, but you want to start with that?
Yeah, I'll talk Google, and feel free to ask me about others as well. But I've been
Sure.
running Google search ads the longest. And many years ago, maybe you read this one. It's like a Perry Marshall's guide to Google Ads, and there's some great advice in there that I think that still holds. And some of the things is basically Google wants your money, and so by default, all the settings that it turns on and pushes you toward give Google money. But what you want is qualified leads, qualified sales, and customers and clients, right? And so you have to protect yourself against all of their defaults and all the people who try to call you and offer help um, from Google, because their interests are not aligned with yours. They're the auctioneer and you are the buyer. You're in an auction, just like a farmer goes to buy a tractor. Um, the farmer wouldn't say, "Hey, auctioneer, why don't you just bid for me and let me know if I got that tractor?" So that's a little controversial, because Google's automation is getting smarter and smarter, and you're ceding more and more of the control. Handle the bidding for me, handle the keywords for me, handle the site extensions for me. But at its most basic level, I want to be very, very specific. So if someone is a mover in Madison, they help you move from apartment or house to house. Um, I might put quotes around that, movers in Madison, or brackets, hard brackets around that, movers in Madison. And that makes it phrase match or exact match, which used to mean more than it does now. But it's like, I don't want to show up for all kinds of other things. And I'm failing to come up with a bad one, but you'd be amazed if you look through the search terms. If you just say movers in Madison with no quotes and no brackets around it, we have broad match search term. You're going to show up for all kinds of things. Who are the movers and shakers in the Madison business community?
Right.
It's just like, that's not a click that I wanted to pay for. And if you're running broad match, a lot of what you're going to see is that. And so you need to be vigilant about your keyword versus your search term. What did you think you were buying, and what did Google actually give you, right? And then the biggest learning I've had is what Perry Marshall says is you want the ad to basically say the same thing back to them. The headline should say exactly what they Googled. Oh, okay, I looked for movers in Madison. I'm seeing movers in Madison right there. It's the pinned headline. That's great. And then this crucial piece is something I learned. It took me longer than it should have. Is that should not go to the home page. That should not go to the moving service page. That should not go to the contact page. There should be a dedicated landing page optimized for conversion. It can have the logo at the top. It can talk about the brand, but it should answer all my questions in one sweet page. And either I can fill out the form or call you, or I can go away. That's it. There's no way to read the blog. There's no way to go to Facebook. There's no way to check out the rest of your site and see how long you've been in business. There's one page that converts, and this one thing will just blow your performance out of the water. Every single time I've ever done it, it's not like a little move. It's usually multi 100% shift in the conversion rate. And so that's a biggie, is build your own dedicated landing pages. And thankfully, AI has made that much easier than it used to be.
That brings up a good point, because I was reading something the other day about the dedicated landing page, and they're like, well, best practices are now that there's maybe an about nav that you can click on to just see more information about the client, and kind of fudging that a little bit. And I think, but what you're getting at is either you're going to S or get off the pot, right? You're like going to buy, or otherwise you're going to go away, because this is at the exact inflection point, right? They are searching for something to buy. So make it very streamlined for them to buy. What do you think, though, about maybe some of these, the use of and the intent with those type of key phrases, keywords, especially I'm thinking more in a B2B situation and a more of a complex sale. Is there a spot for Google Ads? And I'm asking for a friend here.
Yeah, and it's important to know where you are in the funnel. And so in that example, if I'm saying movers in Madison, I'm presuming someone needs help moving. It's almost August, like probably pretty soon. It's hippie Christmas here. So it's like that is a low in the funnel, high intent commercial keyword, right? If someone's like, how do I pack boxes to get ready to move? That's a different intent. I don't necessarily want to run an ad on that for my client or for my moving business, right? And so maybe I want to show up in ChatGPT for that. Maybe I want to show up with a Google blog post, but not as much as I need a mover next week or next month, right? So there's different levels of intent. Same story on B2B. It's that same landing page, it could be for a lead magnet. It could be for a free guide. It could be for a calculator. It could be for a free training. It could be for, anything. It could be for a seminar. It's like this, the principle still applies though, of what happens after they fill out the form. It doesn't always need to be now a salesperson's going to reach out to you. It can be, you're going to get a series of emails that are going to educate you about this problem and why we're the best, company to solve it. And so I think there is a place for lead magnets there. And like you mentioned with about the company and who's the team and how many years have we been in business, I actually think it's fine to put that on the page. I just put it lower on the landing page, and those menu links at the top, if they're there, they're anchor links that scroll you down the page. But throughout the page, you're getting a call to action button that stands out of book a call today or download this free guide.
Yeah, that's great. Just briefly, I know we got a couple other points here, but you mentioned the more top of funnel, middle funnel content, and are you doing much work in ads in those areas? I mean, traditionally that's been the land of SEO, trying to get ranked for some long tail key phrases and things like that. But tell me about a little bit about, are you doing any work with that paid in that realm?
Yeah, just had one recently. We work with a company that people know around here where it's like they do, hail damage, and we had some major hailstorms in May, right? And there's this whole thing I didn't know about this world. You probably do, where it's like people descend from other states and cities,
Oh
and
yeah,
they'll be like, "Oh yeah, we'll do your roof," and they get the insurance money kind of thing. And so this is a local Madison provider that wants to educate around that, and so it's a free hail damage guide. And so we're running ads on Facebook and Instagram. And basically, we spun up a dedicated landing page. We even have, for now at least, it's a separate email marketing system just for these marketing qualified leads to kind of drip market them. And if they reply, the owner gets those replies. It's not going into the main CRM. I often have to back clients off of, get your sales team away from these lead magnet people. They didn't think they were going to get a phone call or get hard sold yet. They're still being nurtured and educated. And when they're ready to reach out, let me tell you, they're ready to buy. They've heard from you for 3, 4, 5 emails. You've given them all this free information. Maybe you're sending them to a video or a branded guide. Doesn't work for. It's not like everybody who gets on that list becomes a customer or client, but the people who do that, the people you took your time with, they're not going anywhere else.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. Eagan, let's talk a little bit about marketing attribution and give us some practical approaches they use to reveal which channels are actually driving the revenue.
Yeah, that's great. Let me see if I can share here. All right, can you see this here?
Yep.
So like we were talking about in terms of first touch, last touch, et cetera, this is what we're showing. Maybe I should have pulled it up then, but people come to your website multiple times, ideally, right? And so that first time, it could be from SEO, Google Organic. Then maybe it autofills in their browser and they just come right to the site. And then maybe they even see an ad later and finally they fill out a form, right? And so that could be one journey, right? It could be the other way. You could have an ad first and then direct and then organic. Maybe it'd be rare. Anytime someone comes direct first, I'm always curious, but sometimes they saw you at a talk, they saw you on a podcast, they saw it somewhere else and they typed in, Windbound or silverpathmarketing.com. It's just like, it does happen, right? And so how do we stitch these together? How do we connect all that? Does that make sense? So what I've come up with then basically is in your, I'm going to say CRM, you want to capture what campaign was it, what channel was it, what ad set, ad group, what was the keyword, all of that information. I want everything. I want it all, and I want it in the CRM. And that simple statement where you're like, oh, that should be easy. This day and age, it's just like, it's unbelievable the gymnastics you have to do sometimes. Now, if you have an enterprise CRM, so many of us know HubSpot or others, this can be set up and it should be set up. If you do not have one like that, you're an industry CRM or a lower price one or something like that, sometimes you got to stitch this together and make it yourself. And so that's kind of where I'm at in my journey of the tools are so amazing right now that I've been able to develop basically an in-house type tool. It's similar to Go High Level or HubSpot or others, where it's got the attribution. It grabs that first touch, last touch, or middle touch, we could say, right? And then if they want to use it as a CRM, they can basically close the loop. And so getting that information out and into the CRM is challenging. So you can try to do it with, dynamic UTM parameters, and basically say, capture the search term from, they went to our WordPress website, they filled out the form. Let's see if we can figure out what Google Ads campaign that was. It's imperfect at best. That's what I was paying developers in China and India to try to do in my previous agency for years, and it was never satisfactory. We never got there. Now we've got something that actually works, and it's pretty special. It's just like whatever their form is, whatever website they're using, just log that submission event and have a cookie on them, just like HubSpot would, so we can see, did they come from Google Ads this time? Did they come from Facebook ads this time? Did they come from an email click? All of that I actually want to see at a contact level. And remember, we said in Google Analytics 4, we don't see that data, right? But basically in this tool, I can show maybe for mine. Is that all right?
Yeah, please do.
There we go. Oops. So here's the tool, right? And so I've got we can sort of see, I've got, a dashboard, I've got analytics, but then the contacts that flow in here, these are people who actually basically filled out my form here. I'm going to zoom in so we can see some of my test ones. All right. So we've got people who filled out my form. That's great. Let me see if we can find myself so we can show mine. I can show my own data, probably not clients' data, right? Let's look at this one. I've tested this a lot, so you can see, but the last touch was actually from a meta ad, and it was for my Greg campaign, and that was just today. So I clicked on my Greg social media campaign, and I can actually see this in here. This is like a crazy number of sessions. You probably won't see this with your clients, but you never know. And then it's actually got, every time I fill out a form here, all these form submissions live in here, mostly all tests, right? And then where are they coming from? What did I fill out? What did I say? Here's all my test ones. But basically it can connect the dots, and even I can see the journey. So once we've cookied them, sorry if I'm scrolling all over here, Greg, basically here, this is what you'd see in a HubSpot as well, of we hit the home page. All right, great. It was a direct visitor, whatever. And then I filled out a form, and then I did this. Here we go. So we can kind of start to see the journey of the contact, right? And then the piece that's crucial, and I drew from Go High Level for inspiration, I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, is that's kind of like the poor man's HubSpot, and I made my poor man's HubSpot, okay? So let's say I'm actually going to make a deal with Eagan Heath here. I can create that deal, Silver Path Marketing. Oh, that's going to be a big one. That's a $50,000 deal for sure. Ooh. All right. So now it's in the pipeline, and hopefully this is familiar, a Kanban style pipeline. You could have this in HubSpot. You could have this in Zoho. You could have this in many others. Hopefully you do. And okay, we could close the deal. Did we win, lose, or abandon it, right? And then we could have the Google Ads conversion tracking, and this can actually pull in all the way down to the search term. And one of the things I found was that even with UTM parameters, you can never get that search term, that thing you actually Googled of, you wanted to bid on movers in Madison, but actually they did movers and shakers in Madison, right? This can actually grab it. I can make any notes I want, etc. I can update all this. But the thing that's crucial here is as I move through the stages, lead, first meeting, second meeting, creating contract, sign contract, or I do that in the pipeline Kanban style, right? Let's say I had my first meeting with Eagan, it went all right. We had a second meeting, then I'm working on a contract. Every single one of these steps, I can actually tie back to the ad platform. And this is the special thing. So in my integrations here, stop me if I'm not making sense, Greg, okay?
You're good.
So in our Google Ads pipeline, and let me tell you, this took a while to get certified for this. So I can connect Search Console, Google Analytics, Google Ads, right? All that's coming in. But then crucially, see these stages? If someone actually does a stage change, let's say we actually create a contract, okay? Create a contract with Eagan. I can create this is pulling dynamically from my Google Ads conversion actions, and I could even use that deal value. Remember, it was a $50,000 deal, $55,000 deal. That can pass back into Google. Make sense? So even if you're B2B, even if you're a local service business, if your CRM can talk to the ad platform, you can do return on ad spend. You can do return on investment.
Yeah.
Makes sense? Same story with phone calls. So I built out something that's like a call rail, right? And so we have some clients turning on now where it's like there's a phone number that goes in front of their phone number and it just forwards on, but then we're actually able to track it and record it, and AI can categorize it. And so if we get a repeat caller, first time caller, if we get a phone call, we can count that as well. Suddenly we're deeper into the funnel. See that? So that moving client all those years ago, if I had this then, I could have said, hey, I understand Google Analytics 4 doesn't want to show you anything but numbers. Google Ads isn't showing you anything but numbers. But guess what? This tool can, or a proper CRM can. And this is what I'm talking about, of the actual, tracking for the campaign level. It could be Meta, could be Google, could be LinkedIn, whatever, goes into the lead. And then when the lead becomes a deal in your pipeline, all of that's connected, and it's basically talking back to the ad platform, and you can actually see $55,000 deal came in, and Google Ads knows about it. Microsoft Ads knows about it. LinkedIn Ads, Meta Ads, all these platforms can know about it if you close the loop. And so suddenly it's not just our reporting that's better, our performance can be better. Because if remember all that automated bidding I was talking smack on?
Yeah.
Maybe that automated bidding could be more valuable if it had data to feed on of, okay, these leads are actually going through the pipeline. This wasn't just a form fill. This was like salesperson met with them twice. They drew up a contract. They did a deal. If your ad platform has that kind of information, you can get better performance.
And I think that also getting down to that granular level of knowing what actual words are converting. I mean, that's so important for writing the landing page, getting that language in the headlines, and that can inform your creative quite a bit as well, I'd imagine.
You're not seeing it because I'm at my standing desk, but I'm clicking my heels under it. And when I got that to first work, I couldn't believe it. And when I've showed that to other PPC people, they're like, okay, how much is this tool? Let me see that. And it's basically, there's a Google Click ID or a GCLID, and your CRM or your system has to talk back and forth to match it up. And that's where you get that data. There's no way to grab that with UTM parameters. There's no way WordPress can just do it. Like, you've got to basically be talking back and forth with the ad platform to get that.
Does Google know you're doing this? I mean, is this something other people can do? I'm just curious.
Yeah, this is permitted. There are other tools. I drew inspiration from one called What Converts, and I used that for a while until I built this one.
Okay.
And Go High Level is good on this as well, and HubSpot is pretty good. There are others too. Those are the ones where I've seen it work and drew inspiration from, hopefully in a way that didn't violate IP laws.
Yeah, but I think what I like about you and what you've got here is, and I'm sure there's more bells and whistles in this. Maybe there's more to come, but you're starting out from what we really need. Every marketer really needs this first and foremost, versus all the other bells and whistles that you get with some of these other platforms that maybe you don't necessarily need to pay for. But tell me your plans here. We're almost at the top of the hour. What are your plans for your tool, Eagan?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I've got clients paying me for it now, and that's much appreciated because my AI bills are higher every month here. So it's we're finally starting to balance out, and I'm very excited to have my own SaaS revenue. You and I, we're in digital marketing. We pay for a lot of software tools. It's nice to finally have some software that people are paying me for. So right now, it's people who are my clients are using it, but I've got friends and colleagues have access. And if people want to use it and even not work with me as an agency, that's fine too. As it stands, it's best to reach out to me, through silverpathmarketing.com or Eagan, EAGAN at silverpathmarketing.com. I will have a proper forward-facing website for this, but to date, I've kind of been grinding with Claude Code and building out the functionality. And now that the functionality is there and I've got some paying clients, I'll work on the marketing for this tool.
Sounds good. Eagan, thoughts on your end in terms of we talked a ton about paid here, and I know we're almost at the top of the hour here, but tell me a little bit about your feelings on SEO and AEO and how the game is changing there. We didn't really get into that.
Yeah, the big headline that I've seen is those informational queries, those how do I pack a box, how do I get ready to move, those higher up in the funnel things, those have really been hit. And I think people still Google. It's interesting to see Google's revenue continues to increase. Google's ad revenue continues to increase, and people's use of Google search continues to increase.
Right.
So we might be thinking everybody uses LLMs now. I use LLMs all day long. Um, it's that normal people are not there yet. So there is that, but I think it's hitting informational queries harder than it's hitting commercial queries. So I think there's still a place for paid. And if you're seeing a big hit on SEO traffic, see if it's informational versus commercial.
Okay. And any thoughts on the AEO front in terms of things you're doing differently?
Yeah, I should be further along on that. It's the usual things you're hearing of. We've seen good traction with my past agency on constant blogging, updating old blogs, adding frequently asked questions to every page, making the headers questions, and then the first sentence of the paragraph answers. All of that can drive traffic. And there's actually in Google Analytics 4, you can actually see, I think AI or LLMs, those are a default channel group now. And I'm glad to see that because I was kind of making my own for a while on that. I think it's good to track that traffic.
Yeah, the AI assisted source is nice to see. It's also in Search Console as well.
Nice.
But yeah, I think you can just see impressions there. So
Cool.
anyway, Eagan, awesome to have you on. I am super excited for your product, and we'll be talking about it for sure because, I think your point about enterprise level access to some of that incredible data and not being able to get that really hurts the little guys. And I work with a lot of mid-level companies, and I know this is sorely needed. So thanks for coming on the show and sharing it with us.
Yeah, thanks so much, Greg. Really appreciate it. As it stands, it's got a working title of MAT, Marketing Attribution Tool. We've got a website for sales provenance. That was my AI's idea to call it that. So I'll have a properly facing marketing tool for it now. But for now, if you're interested, silverpathmarketing.com or Eagan at silverpathmarketing.com is the best way to learn more. Thanks so much, Greg.
Okay, yeah, and I think the mat is great. I mean, I think you can get some professional wrestlers on board to help you with the promo.
Don't change a thing.
Yep, take down your attribution. Great. All right. Thank you, Eagan, again. And then thank you, everyone, for joining us on another episode of Thought Leaders Live.